Hello everybody. Tonight I'm going to make a swirl tumbler using the epoxy method, and decided maybe we could do it as a tutorial. So I already have my epoxy mixed. I'm using KS Resin with equal parts A and B mixed up together. It's actually been sitting for just a little bit. I just want to make sure that you guys can see the cup before we get started. Looks like you can. The glitters that we're using tonight are really beautiful. And sorry if my voice is muffled, I have a mask on. They are from TF Designs and Supplies. I will try to remember to link her Etsy shop. We're using Mermaid Tail, beautiful chunky mix. And we are using Under the Sea, which is a fine holograph glitter. It's really awesome. Teal is one of my favorite colors, so I'm a fan. Sorry, my gloves are dirty. I was doing a wood grain. Galaxy Burst, which is another chunky mix. I probably should have ordered more of this one, but I didn't. And they're all from her shop. The only one that's not is Recollections Bling, and this is the extra fine. I will do my very best once we finally get this up on YouTube to post some affiliate links for KS Resin and some other things in the Etsy shop for you guys. Also, just want to self-disclose, I am certainly not a pro at an epoxy swirl. I like to use these finger cots, just so you understand why I did that, because I have big hands but skinny fingers, and I don't like the give that the gloves have. I don't feel like I can feel very well what's going on with the cut. Sorry, I totally forgot to turn on my turner. Anyway, I have made this cup recently. I made it as a wine tumbler, and I made it in this size, and it has gotten some overwhelming popular comments because the colors are just beautiful. Also, I just got some other glitter on my glove from something else. Don't mind how dirty this is. Down here you might see paint skins in my workspace and some other glitter on my turner mat. I'm working on a few different things at a time, so crafting is not exactly neat and tidy. So we're just going to get our base layer on. My turner is starting to squeak, so sorry about that. With an epoxy swirl, you kind of need a decent amount of epoxy, but you don't want too much either. That's where I'm not great at finding that balance yet. And I usually will use a heat gun to get it to start to swirl a little bit. What I have found with this one is even if it doesn't swirl perfectly, the glitter is so beautiful together that it just works. And I catch all of the glitter on this little mat down here, and I use it in a dump cup. I've made earrings with it. I've made various other things with it. It's just beautiful glitter. Sorry about my turner making all that noise. They're kind of temperamental. So typically with a swirl, you want to get your epoxy on, let it start to kind of self-level as it turns, and then start getting your glitter on there. Sometimes I made too much epoxy on purpose because I have some coasters I need to resin as well. So I figured while I'm doing this, I'll do that. And the colors of the glitter just are phenomenal together. So they're so pretty that I made myself a coffee cup out of a wine tumbler because I was just like, this is so pretty. But the first one I made was a gift, and this one is for an order. And so I figured it would be a fun time to share with you guys. I don't know how I got pink on my cup. I do put a base layer of flat white paint on all of my cups for a couple of reasons. For one, it seems to give a little bit better and have a flat surface for your epoxy to cling to. And for 2, it's gonna really enhance the color of your glitter when you're putting it over a white surface versus a stainless steel surface. That's something I learned when I very first started doing cups, and it's been a really valuable thing for me. The other thing to know about anytime you're swirling with a chunky glitter, somebody does chunky glitter really well and it swirls really well without any issues. What I find is the really chunky parts always want to go somewhere else. So right now all I'm doing is just getting a little extra glitter on there so it has enough to move. See if I can get this to go the other way and stop being so noisy. All right, now I don't worry too much about air bubbles for the base layer because, you know, we're going to cover it up. But we can just torch it a little bit and get some of those air bubbles out. KS Resin gets air bubbles. A lot of times they pop on their own. But I've noticed if you don't wait long, I don't babysit my epoxy when I am mixing it. I know we should. I'm not that patient. So I mix it up really fast sometimes, and then I just torch it or let it sit and let some of the bubbles pop. So I'm going to let that level out for a second. I need to get this epoxy away from me so that I don't get glitter on it. Okay, so usually what I do, I put the glitter in these little cups just because it's a little bit easier to use. And I usually start by going in kind of this pattern. And it's not perfect. It's not supposed to be. Oh, didn't mean to drop all that, but it won't go to waste. I think that this glitter is so beautiful. So the bad thing is when you get a good amount of epoxy on your cup, it starts to spin on its own. It starts to swirl kind of on its own. And sometimes it spreads out more than you really wanted it to. I like to use extra fine as much as I can on the top because chunky glitter kind of causes some challenges on the top of your cup. On the bottom, I haven't figured out a much better method than just throwing things at it and seeing what sticks. The cool thing about this method is when you start to spin your stuff, your epoxy will start running down the bottom a little bit too. So now we're going to move to our chunky a little bit. This turner kind of turns a little too fast for this, but that's okay. I have to fill up my cup again. So if you are ever looking for really good glitter, they have amazing glitter at this Etsy shop. This is my second time I've ordered from her. She has reasonable prices and quick shipping, and I have to resist wanting to buy everything every single time, but it's just beautiful. And I'm kind of a, the shinier the better kind of a person. So I'm having a hard time catching it. It's okay. When I see it fall, it almost hurts my feelings. Even though I'm going to catch it and it's going to be a beautiful dump cup, it still hurts my feelings to see it all fall off the cup. Sometimes when you do the epoxy swirl and you have a lot of epoxy, huge clumps of it will come off, oh no, on your cup, on the floor. or below your cup. And that's painful too, because it's so pretty. But it's not exactly a not messy situation, you know, so. But these are a lot of fun. My first ever swirl I did was the Mod Podge method, and it worked, but I much prefer the epoxy method to Mod Podge. Now, I don't like a lot of silver, so I will probably add it very sparsely. I can never get it to come out. I kind of like it to come out in sections and be just an accent color instead of the main event. But this silver is really pretty. Like if you're going to do silver, it's a pretty holographic looking silver. Considering it's just Michael's glitter, it's not too bad. This epoxy is not moving a lot, so I'm starting to wonder if I didn't kind of underdo the amount, but it's okay. So since I already have this one up, we'll throw some of it on the bottom. And then let's get some more stuff on the bottom in a second. One thing I think I will do is kind of extend that to the top of the cup, because what kind of irritates me about cups is when the chunky glitter separates at the top and you can see the cup on the inside or through the glitter. I know that that's part of life, but it really irritates me a little bit. So I try to at least cover it up. Oh, didn't mean to do that. So now we're going to fill in these other colors a little bit more. So I think we'll do a little chunky blue, just a little bit next to this guy. And like I said, there's not a particular pattern that you need to follow. Like I prefer the teal over the blue, so sometimes I will do more teal on purpose. But as you can see, like when it starts moving, the chunky colors kind of go where they want. So these big dots kind of just disappear into wherever. Oh, that was kind of crazy, huh? That's alright. But sorry about the background noise. My husband is working on something in the garage, so that's why I'm doing this with you guys, because he is working on something, so it's a good time. So now we'll fill in with this one. Ooh, that was too much. That was like glitter sacrilege. The cool thing about the teal one is it's the same color as the teal chunky, so you can kind of fill it in where you need to. And then now we're going to hit it with some heat. Now be careful. Oh no, that was not intended. Be careful that you don't put too much heat on it in one place at one time. It will cook your epoxy, and that's not obviously the objective. I've done it almost every single time I've made this particular design, so it's not like it doesn't happen. But it doesn't work very well if it's cooked. So we just want it to run a little bit. You may want to touch up some spots after it starts running, because it starts moving and kind of isn't super easy to control. Now this cup right now would be beautiful just like it is. So we don't really have anything to lose by hitting it with some heat and seeing what happens. I keep messing with the bottom. The bottom will probably get covered with the swirling. So I feel like I'm just throwing away really beautiful glitter. But you will have some parts that will stick up with chunky glitter. After your epoxy starts to cure a little bit, it will help you to lay those down with your finger a little bit. So here we go. Just a little bit. Ooh, glitter everywhere. Just a little bit. And I'm honestly okay if it doesn't move a lot. And I would say learn from my mistakes and don't keep the heat on it until it moves. That's how I burn it. So just hit it with some heat a little bit, and then it's gonna start moving after a little bit. Like this is moving a little bit. I don't have a lot of epoxy on here, so it's perhaps not gonna swirl quite as much as it should. But let's see. Our bottom seems to be covered. I can kind of tell that it is moving because it's starting to close the gap with the silver, and then these are starting to move around a little bit. Sadly, you can't really control these from moving around. They just do what they want. I do notice that there's a whole lot of teal in one spot. So I'd like to maybe add some blue, but first I kind of need to see it move. Let's see. These heat guns don't look like they get very hot, but they do get pretty hot. So you don't want to just expose it to too much heat. We're not getting a lot of swirl action here. Okay, I think I finally got it to move. But even if that's where it landed, I'm totally good with it. But typically, in my opinion, it's easier to get a cool swirl effect from fine glitter. But it is moving. It's really hard to tell that it is moving. I just don't want to cook it, so. Okay, it's starting to move. Oh, you see? This is what I was talking about. It's really easy for it to move. Also, my turner probably could be more level. So that's another factor that I've noticed, is that mine tend to try to pull to the bottom a little bit because my turner really needs to be a little bit more level. It still works, but see here, as it started moving, we have some parts that need to be kind of recovered. So this is a good time to add a little bit of color in the blue spaces if we want to. I can't really tell that I want to. Or the teal spaces. I kind of want to just add a little dash of it to break up the teal a little bit. but there's also some places that need a little bit more fine glitter. So we're going to do that. I don't really love what's happening right here, so I'm going to try to fix it without burning it. Ooh. Sometimes it comes off from the top too. So there's a couple of little bald spots. You guys probably can't really see that well from there. But you know, you just kind of fill in where you want it to change a little bit. There's still enough epoxy to probably put fine glitter here. What's concerning me is the way that's moving. It will probably level out, but if it doesn't, it would be kind of a big ugly clump right here. So I think I'm gonna see about just adding a little bit of silver where we have these big places of just mostly teal. I don't want a lot, so just a little bit. Just a little bit. I think a little silver goes a long way. But it does add a little contrast where we have big spaces of teal. And I think it also creates a little bit more of a swirl look since our epoxy is not moving as much as we would like it to. It is moving. All of my cups typically will have some action down here, and then up here is kind of like what happened. Well, a lot of it is because of the way it's kind of naturally tilting down, but this is kind of a lot of silver in the middle here. I kind of prefer it to be like this. So I'm gonna probably quit while I'm ahead. I just want to make sure we got all the stuff covered. I think we do, and I think adding the silver helped with some of our gaps, or some of our gaps. There's a couple places where the silver is a little more pronounced. I kind of want the blue to be a little bit more pronounced there. This blue is really pretty. It looks a little bit more flat when you lay it down, but when it catches the light, it's still really pretty. Kind of just filling in some of this silver is all I'm doing right here, so that it will look like a little bit more of an accent. And then I'm going to throw on a little bit more of this chunky guy right here. And I'm not going to force this to swirl much more than it is, because I feel like if we do, we're going to run the risk of kind of cooking the epoxy. So I'm happy with it. It's so beautiful the way it is. And the colors are just so beautiful. It kind of is a beauty to behold. And then I think we're good. So I think that's good. So all we would do, obviously we're going to let this turn, right? I kind of want to push this up. It looks like the bottom is covered. I kind of want to push it up a little bit. All of this beautiful glitter here is going to go into a cup. but these I buy at the Dollar Tree, and they're fantastic because they are 2 of them for $1. And when they get really gross, you can just throw them away. But they're so perfect for this kind of stuff. And I just threw off some epoxy in there. I have them everywhere in this house from these sorts of things. And a lot of times I will, when I do that, I'll get like big pieces of this epoxy in there, which is not ideal, but I can usually fish those out. I try to get the dump cup glitter off before it sets, but I didn't really clean that, so it was already in there from the last time. But just in case the bottom's crazy, I'm just going to throw a little glitter on there, on here. When you're doing a chunky, you want to try to get any random pieces that are sticking up to lay down, because chunky mixes, if they don't lay down on top of the epoxy like this right here, they'll stick up and they'll dry that way. And then you have to deal with trying to get it to lay down later. For the most part, we don't have a lot of that on this cup. This one weird little clump right here is a concern for me because it's epoxy that moved and it's starting to dry. So I'm going to pull it off. Sometimes it falls on its own when you do the swirl method. Sometimes it doesn't. So while it's still moving, I'm just going to put some of this on top of that bald spot I just created. And it should be fine. Sometimes when that happens, sorry about my phone, you can just kind of improvise and fix it. I sometimes will just tap something that's on the bottom, because that's what was happening as it got really hot and it was starting to look crazy. And I was afraid it was going to dry in a clump because that's happened to me before. So but I think we covered that up pretty well. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe and share. I am actively working on trying to add more tutorials, both for tumblers and fluid art and just random occasional things that we're working on here. I will do my very best to remember to post the Etsy link for the glitter and the colors. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Have a great day.